in just 1 week from now. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will meet for the first time in 4 years, and we've got new details on what the first debate will look like. President Biden will be standing at the podium on the right, the same place he stood the last time he debated Trump. And Trump will go second for closing statements, meaning he will have the last word. Today, debate host CNN confirmed that independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will not be there. He did not meet the ballot or the polling requirements to be on the stage. Evan and Juanita are still here, and Amanda Carpenter joins us. She's a writer and editor for Protect Democracy and a former senior staffer to Republican Senators Jim DeMint and Ted Cruz. Amanda, podium location, order of closing statements, how much do these things matter?
I mean, they do matter in the margins, but honestly, what I'm struggling to grapple with is how this doesn't end up being a 90-minute commercial for Trump's big election lies. And I'm not just talking about the 2020 lie that the election was stolen from him, but the lie that he has unfolded today that undergirds his 2024 campaign and that the Department of Justice is somehow being weaponized against him. I struggle to understand how you can provide someone like Donald Trump a platform on live television responsibly. You know, we've had a lot of debates about media and, you know, what to do with the Republican Party. I think this is just a dangerous proposition. And there's not really, it doesn't seem to be like there's anything that anybody can do about it, because we have these debates, we want to participate in these things. So this is going to happen, right? And this is the beginning of what I think is going to be a ripcord of political events over the next 3 weeks. You have the debate, monumental Supreme Court decisions that are coming probably next week in the immediate aftermath of that, Trump sentencing, the opening of the Republican convention, and the unfolding of a vice presidential candidate whoever Donald Trump picks. I mean, this is going to be a whipsaw of events. And the debate next week will set the stage, and Donald Trump has a huge platform to set it off.
A huge platform, and right next to him, Joe Biden has a huge platform to call him out for it. When Donald Trump, Evan, is on the stage at rallies, there is no pushback. He's only doing interviews with right-wing outlets. But next week, he will have an equal amount of time and the exact same opportunity as President Biden. The moderators have the opportunity to push back on him or follow up, and obviously, Joe Biden does. So could this be a huge advantage for President Biden, that he real time can call out former President Trump?
Well, the Biden campaign asked for this, right? I mean, they do think it's a huge advantage for them. They really, really want to have this moment where the president and his former, the former president are on the stage together. And they think that when those two things happen and Joe Biden can say what he wants to say to Donald Trump's face, Joe Biden comes out looking better. So that is exactly why we're doing this so early, because the Biden campaign thinks it's a good idea.
Juanita, you think Trump's definitely showing up? We've already heard from James Carville, Heather Cox Richardson, who said, I'm not so sure. The rules that they have set,
let's be real.
Trump's not going to get to do any of his favorite things.
Right. And so let's be real. He can opt out at any point before going live. And if he does, I hope they broadcast with an empty podium. But the key factor of this debate that hasn't been mentioned yet is the moderators have this mute button that they will be deploying. So that is another opportunity and part of the rules that will allow for direct rebuttals, direct fact checking from the host, as well as limiting Donald Trump from just spewing his lies unchecked. Like, I have this visual in my mind, Steph, of his little arms flailing and him turning red in the face and like speaking, but no one can hear him. I think that image is absolutely something that the Biden campaign wants. As Tara mentioned in the previous segment, this juxtaposition of chaos, unhinged, random stream of consciousness approach that Donald Trump is likely going to bring to this debate compared to President Biden with his composure, his compassion, his communication of the issues is the clear contrast. I think the other factor here, though, is how much Donald Trump is going to complain about this process. So even if he does show up, is there a reality where he makes it to the end, or does he just walk off the stage at any point, right? Anything is possible in this scenario. And let's be real, that makes for great live television.
Evan, we have read that President Biden's team is apparently worried that Trump will actually stay disciplined for the full 90 minutes. And maybe there's a risk that they've overplayed their hand, saying we're going to get unfiltered Trump. But let's say Trump is disciplined for 90 minutes, which he's never been in 78 years. Won't that also be an opportunity for Biden or for the American people to see he has no details behind any general broad policy suggestions he has?
Well, look, a time-honored tradition about debates is lowering the expectations for your person and raising them for the other person before the debates happen. So now the idea is, oh, discipline Trump. That's what we're worried about. If the Biden campaign is actually worried that they can't push back against a disciplined Trump, one that doesn't like yell over Biden like they did in that first debate last time around, then there is a really big problem for the Biden campaign, right? Because the idea is they think that Trump's ideas are bad. So if he's just slowly and calmly laying them out, they're supposed to be able to sort of knock them down. So I think that, like, again, we have seen the Biden campaign say over and over that you need to wait for this debate. This debate is what we need to kick this thing back into gear, get everybody locked in on this election. And once they are, they'll remember that it's between Joe Biden, who they liked the last time, and Donald Trump, who they didn't like the last time. And they'll go for Biden again. That's what the Biden campaign has said over and over. So this is their big moment. They have set this up. This is their big stage that they want to take and do this thing. And, you know, they need to be able to beat Trump no matter how he comes. That's what they need to do if they really want to make this work, right?
Well, they're building a steel cage for the match next week. Amanda, the New York Times is reporting that a GOP mega donor gave $50 million to a Trump PAC the day after his conviction. One of the largest contributions to any candidate ever. How significant is this kind of money for Trump, and to get this kind of money the day after a big conviction?
Well, he had a huge fundraising haul online to that as well, but certainly that is a ton of money from a single person. And I think it speaks to the fact that the money will be there for him during this campaign, regardless of his legal bills. The money will come in from him. And what I thought was really disturbing last week was the response that he got from the Business Roundtable when he made his return back to Capitol Hill. And what that was an exercise in getting the Republican Party around him and the business leaders to say, like, listen, they all put this idea that we're unified by an economic agenda. Now, I kind of think that is garbage because Donald Trump is not campaigning on an economic agenda. He is campaigning against the rule of law. He's campaigning on his grievances. But there was a massive show of unity behind tax cuts, right? And that is enough to get people on board. And what I think we really need to
hold on a minute. I'm going to push back.
Business community.
I'm going to push back. I covered this. The Business Roundtable made no statement after. There was not, I mean, there could be, hold on a minute. There could be a general sense that they support tax cuts, but Andrew Ross Sorkin had reporting from people inside the room who had been kind of leaning towards Trump and said he was meandering, he was difficult to follow, and they left feeling really disappointed. And it wasn't just Donald Trump's opportunity to go back to the business community. The Business Roundtable every 4 years invites both candidates. This wasn't Donald Trump's grand return and they endorsed him. He got absolutely no endorsement from the Business Roundtable. And Jeff Zients came from the White House. The only reason President Biden wasn't there is because he was at the G7.
Yeah, I understand all that. I think Donald Trump is so out of the norm. I do not know why these leaders of the business community felt the need to meet him face to face. What is the deal with that? In the aftermath of January 6th, a lot of leaders of the business community said, you know what, that's a bright red line. We're not going to have donations to it. And slowly they all started coming back around. And the reason they came back around is because he's the Republican presidential nominee. And they feel a need to at least go there, save face, give him a chance and preserve their standing and their foothold, which I understand from an economic perspective. But this is so
from
far
a perspective
out of
that they've got to run.
The point. This is why the money will be there for him, Stephanie. The money will be there for him. And if he wins again, they'll be back on board.
But they're not saying that they're going to give him any money. They're showing up because there's an almost 50% chance he could be the next president of the United States.
Exactly.
And they have to not necessarily endorse him, but as the CEO of a public company,
they
have to interface with him.
No, they don't. I mean, that's their choice. I understand why they're doing it to preserve their business standing, and they have to make this financial bet, so to speak. But it's kind of like Pascal's wagers for the business community. They have to preserve both sides, and they're actually they're just preserving their interests. Okay, fine, I get it. But Donald Trump is so far out of the norm for the rule of law. I want to get to the point I was previously trying to make. and that I think there has to be a lot more understanding and study how authoritarianism that is represented by Donald Trump is bad for the economy, right? Like businesses, except for the ones that are in really good the leader, don't do great in the authoritarian regime. And so that's like, I want to see more work developed.